And I will be presenting regenerative architecture systems thinking, which is quite a new word for every. I think each one of you just heard about it, or maybe some of you heard what regenerative architecture systems thinking is. No, but this is totally different from the green and sustainable model that we are discussing right now. Because when I attended a lot of seminar and trainings about green thinking, no, the green model, I realized that there is a gap. I don't know how huge or what the gap is in between uh, 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 the situation of uh, about the green sustainable model. But I think that this is a very significant uh, situation that we need to address. That's the reason why um, I dwell into regenerative architecture systems thinking. In a few moments, you will be able to understand what I meant about what I meant of regenerative architecture. I will be discussing what is regenerative architecture and the oikos, or our new norm. No? The oikos is uh, a play of word about ecology. No? And lastly, I will be discussing about the living systems design, or nature's design. The objective number one is to do understand our construction resources are limited. First and foremost, hindi ito one to sawa yung material na ginagamit natin. So whenever you design concrete, glass, steel, hindi yan unlimited, no? Hindi yan kagaya ng ginagamit ninyong load na unli, no? Ito, there is these are finite resources, okay? Next is make architecture and the built environment contribute to ecosystems health. Okay? Hindi po pwedeng maganda lang yung ating architecture. Hindi po pwedeng iconic lamang siya. No? This is one thing that I realized during the pandemic situation. I'll be explaining that to you later on. And lastly, the objective is to create designs that are eco-centric, frugal, and regenerative living, not focused on human centric. For several centuries, we focused our design, our architecture into humans. We believe that humans are the most important species on Earth, but truth of the matter is we are not the most important species on Earth. Okay, so further to discuss my topic, for many centuries, man evolved a civilization centered to his needs, comfort, and safety, which we called human centric or anthropocentric. We created buildings, cities, metropolis, predominantly concrete. Okay, this is where the problem lies. Our world population will balloon to 9 billion by 2050. We will continue to build infrastructures, communities to serve the steeping population. We will use the same saved resources up until then. This is the very purpose of green and sustainable model. No? We want to reduce, we want to become more efficient on our usage of these resources, the water, the electricity, the materials. No? We want to save. We want to become efficient. That's the reason why we develop a more sophisticated technology to be able to measure a more efficient usage of this material. Am I correct? Now, what if I tell you that we are running out of sand? This may be an overstatement. We have so many natural resources, as we all know. No? We will not run out of these aggregates. Or think of it as an understatement. These are finite resources. It will take 200 million years to produce new sand. 50 billion tons are being extracted annually, enough to cover California 2 inches deep and the Philippines 5 inches deep. This is a staggering amount. Most consumed natural resources besides water and air, even more than oil. In fact, in India, it is a crime, no? Nagpapatayan sila just to sell sand. Where are we going to get resources to build for the ballooning population? When material becomes scarce, the price will go up. Either we wait for it to happen, or um, we develop our strategic foresight thinking that will address the new epoch of Anthropocene. We extract aggregates from the mountains. We dredge sand from the ocean floor. This causes disruption of the so-called Emelenia hoxleyi, or an important component of coccolithophore. Coccolithophore grows on the seabed and produces clouds, which in turn produces rain that's scattered on terrestrial bodies. When these cycles are disrupted, we experience severe weather problems. And that is why we are all here right now. When you dredge sand on the seabed, on the seafloor, akala natin walang mangyayaring masama, no? And that is where the problem lies. Hindi natin alam, it reduces the production, or um, the multiplicity of the coccolithophore that I'm talking about earlier. Now, with this, every materials on the buildings that we use affects the smallest and the biggest, the prettiest and the ugliest species on Earth, which is vital to the equilibrium of the Earth. No, we continue to be egocentric, or shift to ecocentrism, thinking that all lives matter. Now, this is the problem that I'm talking about earlier. We develop a thinking that humans are important because of our thinking that man is supreme. No, man is the most important species on Earth. Pero sa isang kagat lang ng lamok, pwedeng mamatay ang tao, no? Dengue, for example. And right now, because of this pandemic, the COVID-19, it can wipe out the whole humanity. No? So that is only because, let us set aside the argument for a moment that the pandemic, the COVID-19, is caused by zoonotic disease. Okay, um, this is to establish the issue that we are already um, um, taking too much space, or taking too much abuse of the natural resources. Neglect and ignorance, deliberate or not, is causal to irreversible environmental damage, leading to our sixth major mass extinction on Earth, caused by a single species, yet have an awareness of doing so. This is what you call man. In so doing, we should transcend to regenerative lifestyle. It is a systems thinking that built environment is in co-creative collaboration with other biota of the natural systems. It is engaging the built environment into the complex ecology of the site. Is that it does not displace other living communities, but treat them as an equal shareholder in the site, where the built environment becomes an important abiotic element and contributor, weaving on the positive health of the site's ecosystem. This is what I'm talking about earlier. Iconic buildings, or landmark buildings, which humanity prides themselves to build such beautiful structures, but it ends there, being beautiful, being the most important building for humanity, but it doesn't contribute to the health of the ecosystem. Now, if we continue to do this, it can wipe out the whole of humanity because of our destruction to nature. No, come to think of it, you are trying to take out mountains of aggregates, or seas of seabeds of sand. No, you are taking away or you are shooing away the habitat of living organisms. All right. Now, we should embrace ecological wisdom and indigenous wisdom. I would like to share with you a story. No? Batanes survived Super Typhoon Ferdy in 2016 with a very stark comparison with Super Typhoon Yolanda, which registered more than 6,000 deaths plus almost 2,000 casualties despite happening similar extreme weather in 1890. I would like to repeat that, no? Hindi ito ngayon lang nangyari kay Yolanda. Nangyari na ito on 1890, no? Nangyari yan at patuloy na nangyayari because of the cyclic extreme typhoon, no? Every 100 years to 150 years nangyayari yan. Now, because of climate change, lumalapit yung kanyang cycle. 50 years, 25 years. In fact, habagad nga lang no? Kahit na habagat lang, bumabaha sa atin at ang daming nasasalanta. No? Now, this was also happened, no? The devastation because it is situated, Samar, Leyte, Tacloban, no? Is situated on a typhoon belt. And these are, of course, included on the CLUP of every municipality or city. No? Alam nila na nangyayari yan. But they're not doing anything to be able to stop or prevent or at least to cushion the situation. Let me tell you the story of indigenous Ivatan by the name of Cesar S. Ducul, a regional disaster risk officer of Batanes local government. Few days before Batanes was hit by one of the most intense tropical cyclones on record, which is the Typhoon Ferdy, he noticed an unusual natural phenomenon on his surroundings. The endemic Arius, or ito yung tinatawag na Podocarpus costalis, with the budding yellow-green leaves, are unbelievably growing very, very fast. Second, the curled banana leaves are suddenly drooping towards earth. He also witnessed a very rare occurrence of an unusually bamboo shoots grow fast, equal in height, which is a very rare occurrence on his lifetime. It turned out to be a nature's warning of a very strong typhoon coming. Batanes was raked by a Category 5 Super Typhoon Ferdy with international name Meranti on the 12th of September 2016. Batanes battered with 315 kilometers per hour with 10-minute sustained wind. Reported 0 deaths, 0 casualties, and few damages compared to several billions of damages caused by Yolanda. The world are focused its attention, technology, and monetary resources to Yolanda, but nobody knows similarly happened in Batanes. I never heard them scream for help or donations. This is the true wisdom of resiliency. I emphasize, this is the true wisdom of resiliency. Moving forward, by creating or by doing the creative frugal innovation, we believe that having more and bigger is better. The pandemic gave us a realization, what does these beautiful buildings can do beyond its iconicity? What if we make it a good contributor, sensible to Earth's health? It is impossible not to make a building beautiful if it is sensible. People crave for new solutions on the post-crisis gloom with a more balanced lifestyle to help create a new economic system, a frugal economy. By living less, in India, they call it jugad. It is removing elitism on innovation. They developed a primitive techniques and made electricity less, refrigerator that can store food for 3 to 5 days. Another one is the earth cooker that utilizes wood from your backyard and the solar bottle which the former actor Ilyak Diaz popularized on his Liter of Light project, which is very relevant, especially on rural areas. Jugad methodology becomes the focus of well-known universities worldwide. Some created a program while multinational companies benefit from a large revenue brought by it. No? Indians, they even sent their mission to Mars called Mangalyan for a measly 20% or 80% less of NASA's cost. Creative frugal, or what more, it's uh, even more less than what Elon Musk is doing right now. No, creative frugal innovation is more than a strategy. It denotes a new frame of mind, one that sees resource constraints as an opportunity, not a liability, and spreads the opportunity of growth from the grassroots to the middle component of the social pyramid, dispersing the global wealth not to a few billionaires or trillionaires, but to other species of Earth. Empowering bottom to top methodology will mitigate the probable improbable. This is what the situation that was explained also by Nicholas Taleb on his book, The Black Swan. No? If we will only let a few people to get rich, trillionaires and billionaires, no, um, we will going to have a social problem because the structure creates only a few wealthy people. But if we will create more prosumers, prosumers are the so-called, you involve the consumer to produce also the product, and so they become the producer and the consumer themselves. So you lower the cost and you created a much more significant or much more sensible product. Okay, let us use concrete where it's only necessary. I'm not saying that we will not use concrete anymore. What I'm trying to say is we reduce the use of concrete. We only use it where it is necessary. No, in fact, we have a very a huge deficit on aggregate and cement. No, because of our build project. Even though we import cement, sand, or gravel, no, you are still destructing the environment of other countries like Vietnam or Thailand or Malaysia, for example. No? We will still be affected because we are all interconnected. It is almost 65% of construction supplies, no, the residential sector, no, these are comprised of 65% of the construction supplies. No, it will be a relief on habitat loss if we if these 65% will use less of concrete. Um, Another material we use, actually, I use these kinds of material. No, I use rammed earth, compressed earth blocks, and pavements, and we employ primitive techniques of mixing mud, loam, sieved gravels, and a little of cement without steel bars. Actually, it resulted into an adobe blocks that created by nature, this time enhanced by man. We are building a regenerative community in Alfonso Cavite, here in our place right now, 60% habitable space and 40% biodiverse ecotone, a life assemblage where we will practice what we preach. This is where we will get and share our food, wood, play with dragonflies and kingfisher during day, and enjoy the fireflies at night. We restore, conserve, and replenish what we will consume. We hope to influence others and follow our regenerative lifestyle. It is at this point where the greatest lesson unfolds. Man needs nature. Nature does not need man. Earth has been existent for over 4.5 billions of years. Man has been staying for 3.8 seconds of 24 hours planetary existence. Man is only 0.01% of the total biomass, while plants comprise of almost 80%. Insignificant on the numbers, humans caused an irreversible damage and changing climate. Earth with natural extinction rate of 10% will not affect its ecosystem with the loss of 0.01% humankind. It is negligible. The planet will continue to thrive without man. In fact, termites and ants are much more important than man. Humanity direly needs to acknowledge its abuses and oppression done to other living organisms. For man to continue to exist, consequently needs nature. It is time to recognize that we are nature. We are interbeing participants in a dynamic whole, and we cannot be separated from it. Let us regenerate rather than exploit. Let us thrive together rather than compete against. Let us roam the earth and regenerate. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.